Hey friends, it's Corey from Hey Let's Make Stuff. In today's video, we are breaking out the Cricut again and we are making magnetic bookmarks. These are a fun and easy project that you can even make as a beginner, and they work really well for small gifts for people who love to read. Because we're nearing the holidays, I'm going to be using Christmas images for my bookmarks, but you can use most images for this. I'm going to show you what types of images work best, but you can make them basically any time of year with most types of images. Before we hop into Cricut Design Space, let's talk about what we're going to need for this project. Of course, you're going to need a Cricut, and you need a Cricut with print then cut capabilities. So that's basically everything except the really small joy. Today I'm going to be using my Cricut Maker 3. You're also going to need a printer. So on the other side of my craft space, I have my HP Envy. It is my favorite printer for printing things that are really high quality in really good color. So if you're looking for a printer to do that, the HP Envy has been my pick compared to any of the other printers that I've used. And then if we hop over here to the overhead, you're going to need a blue Cricut mat. You're going to need some heavy cardstock. This is actually going to go into my printer. You're going to need a sheet of self-adhesive laminate. So I have a sparkly version here. I don't know if you can see this. I can't tell if you can see that in the overhead, but it has sparkly stars all over it. I will link a few different options down in the description. You're also going to need a sheet of magnets. You're going to need a scraper that does have that felt edge. That's actually really important. You can get one of these on Amazon. You'll need a paper trimmer, and then I highly recommend some sort of self-healing cutting mat, an acrylic ruler, and a craft knife. This right here is all for cutting the magnets, and it just makes it a lot easier and a lot tidier than you would with scissors. You can, however, use scissors if you'd like. Let's talk a little bit about the images that you might want to make bookmarks with. To start, you want something that is fairly symmetrical. It doesn't have to be exactly symmetrical, but fairly symmetrical will make it a lot easier to create this sort of folding bookmark because you have your two pieces like this, they're going to fold and you want them to line up. The other thing you want to think about is basically how complex the image edges are. You want something, for lack of a better word, that's kind of chunky, like a circle or just a really simple shape, versus something that has a lot of intricate detail. And that's because these bookmarks are made of cardstock and they're just not particularly durable over the long haul. So if you have a fairly simple shape, it's just going to hold up a lot better than something with a bunch of little tiny pieces hanging off of it. All right, let's pop into Cricut Design Space so I can show you what kind of images work really well for this, and we can set up our files. All right, here in Cricut Design Space, let's go to Images. And they have this new sidebar, which I don't like, so I'm going to go to Advanced Search. And the first image we're going to work with here is this cute little house. You can see that it is symmetrical as far as the shape goes. The little bear and the door and everything aren't symmetrical, but the shape is symmetrical, so it's going to work really nice. I'm going to click Add to Canvas and go back. Our second image is this little Christmas tree. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but it's close, so it will work. Let's add it to the canvas. And then finally, I have a not Christmas image that I think is going to work really well to kind of show you why you need a symmetrical image. It looks sort of symmetrical, so we think it might work, but really it's not a great image, and I want to show you why. So add that one to canvas as well. Then we can close images, close it again, and we have our images here on the canvas. Generally, I like my images to be 2 inches high, but this is kind of a wide image, so I'm actually just going to make it 1.7 inches high. And then I'm going to make these other two 2 inches high. All right, now we have our images, so I'll bring them down here, just like this. The first thing we need to do to each of these to make them into a bookmark is add an offset. So I'm going to go to Offset, and I'm going to change this to 0.175 because I think that's just a better size. I'm going to apply it, and it's going to apply, a gray background, and that's fine. We'll fix it here in a little bit. I'm going to apply this offset to the other two images here. Now we want to group each of these. It's just going to make alignment easier. So I'm going to select both the offset and the image. And on my Mac, I'm going to press Command G. On a PC, it's Control G, or you can use this little group button up here. So I'm going to group all of my pieces. And now I should have 3 groups over here in my Layers panel. Now I want to duplicate and rotate each of these so they're upside down. So I'm going to copy and paste. And I'm going to rotate it so it's upside down, and I'm going to put it right above it. Same thing with the other two. I'm going to rotate. If you hold down the Shift key, they will rotate at perfect intervals, so highly recommend you do that. There we go. Okay, so you can see how these are going to fold together to create a bookmark, but we need that piece in the center to fold them together. So I'm going to go to Shapes and choose a square, close my Shapes panel. I'm going to unlock my size so that I can make it 0.5 inches across and 1 inch tall. I found that this works really well for bookmarks, and so it's the size that I keep coming back to, but you can work with other sizes as well. You can see here that I don't have these very nicely aligned. We'll just kind of get them. We'll do a better alignment here in a second. And one more to align this one. Now let's take a look at each of these. So I could, if I wanted, flip this one to make it perfectly symmetrical, but honestly, it doesn't matter in this case because there's no words on it. The bear can be on either side, the door can be on either side. This one is not quite symmetrical, it's close. So what I like to do with images like this that don't have any text and aren't quite symmetrical is I like to flip one of them. And now if you can kind of see with your mind's eye, this goes up a little bit higher here on the right, and now it comes a little higher here on the right as well. So this will line up perfectly when folded together. And then there's this guy. When these are folded together, it's not gonna line up very well, and that's because these two things aren't symmetrical. We have one side going up, and on this side, if it was symmetrical, it would be going down. To become symmetrical, we would need to flip this one. Now you can see that if it's folded together, it will actually align perfectly. Great, but all of these words are backwards and unreadable. So I'm going to flip it back to make it so that it's readable. And then when we go to make this project, I'll show you why these don't align so that you have a better idea of why I think that symmetrical images work better. All right, so let's grab everything from our first bookmark here, and we're going to go to Align, Center Horizontally. We're going to do this with all three. Align, center horizontally, then align, center horizontally. Now we need to ungroup our images. We just had them grouped to make alignment a little bit easier, but now we need to ungroup all of these groups. So to do that on a Mac, it's Shift-Command-G, on a PC, Shift-Control-G, or you can use the little ungroup button up here at the top of the layers panel. We just need to ungroup all of our little pieces here. All right, so we shouldn't have any more groups over here in the layers panel. Now we need to turn this offset and the centerpiece into one single piece. So I'm going to select just the offset, the centerpiece, and the other offset. I'm going to go down here to Combine, Unite. Yes, it's going to move to the front. Don't worry about it. We can fix that in a minute. I'm going to do the same thing here with the Christmas tree. Combine, Unite, and then the same thing with our priority image. Combine, Unite. Then we can select all three of these and go to Arrange, Send to Back. Then select each of these and make them white. You can use another color, but because the paper's white, I like using white because that way if there is a problem with the alignment, it doesn't show up quite as much. All right, our last step is to select everything and flatten it as a print then cut file. So we're gonna do that for each of these, just like that. Do make sure that you have the correct Cricut selected up here. If you do, then click Make. It will show all of your images here on a piece of paper. This is exactly what we want it to look like. If you have more images, I would definitely fill up this space just so you're not wasting laminate. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just gonna make these three. So I'm gonna click Continue. It's going to connect to my Cricut Maker 3 and I can send it to my printer. So I'm gonna click Send to Printer. I'm going to choose the correct printer. I am gonna use this system dialog box so that I can select the best quality print. So I'm going to click Print. And from here, I do have a setting on my computer here for best 8.5 by 11. But for my printer here, you can select the quality to be best. So make sure that whatever your printer settings are, you're printing in the highest quality possible. Then I'm going to click Print. All right, now we have our print. But before we put it in the Cricut, let's add a layer of laminate to help make it a more solid, sturdy bookmark that's gonna last a little bit longer. For this, you are gonna want some self-adhesive laminate. So we're not gonna be using a laminator or anything like this. This is basically a piece of laminate with a sticky background. And they don't come in the right size. So I think this is 8 by 12, I think is the size that it comes in, which is really dumb. So it's always a little bit too long. So I start by using my paper cutter to just cut off part of the end so that I don't have this extra laminate hanging around. Then my next step is to peel back the laminate, and I'm just going to carefully peel it back here. And then once I have it peeled back, I'm going to cut a small amount of the backing off. So we can peel it down a little bit more so it stays. We'll go here with the paper trimmer and we'll just take a bit of this laminate off. Then I'm going to use my little scraper, and you really do want to make sure that you have that felt on there, because without it, it will scratch the laminate. So I'm basically gonna push out any bubbles that ended up in there. Peel it off my desk. Then we're gonna add it to our image. So I'm going to basically line it up here, just like this. Just do that top part, that's where it will stick. And then we can kind of flip it over and use our tool here to apply the laminate. So we're gonna do it like this. And I'm just gonna kind of move my thing back and forth and apply the laminate all the way down. There we go. So now my image here has the laminate on it, and I can throw this backing piece away. Next, I'll grab my Cricut mat, and I'm just gonna put this up in the top corner here. This is a brand new Cricut mat, but if you're having issues getting your paper to stick, you can use a brayer. All right, back here in Cricut Design Space, I'm going to choose medium cardstock as my material, and then I'm gonna load this into my machine, and my Cricut will cut out my bookmarks. Once your image is cut, we can remove it from the mat. The best way to do this is to flip your mat over and then bend your mat away from your bookmarks. That way they don't bend. You can also do that for the main piece of paper here. All right, now we have our 3 bookmarks. We just need to cut ourselves some magnets. I find this the easiest way to get these sort of long cuts done using a craft knife instead of scissors. It just gives me more even magnet pieces. So we're going to cut, I don't know, 1/2 inch or so here. And you want to do it straight. So you can just cut down the magnet itself like this. Just like that. And then I use scissors just to cut myself little, I don't know, 3/4 inch pieces. They don't have to be perfect. They will still work. I'm just gonna cut myself 6 little magnet pieces that I can use for these bookmarks. All right, here's where we can talk about that symmetry a little bit. So I'm going to fold the first one. So what I like to do is kind of put my finger here in the middle and fold around my finger, line up the pieces, and then pinch. And that will give you a perfect double-sided bookmark here. Then, to add the magnet, you'll peel off the backing and place the magnet here kind of toward the bottom. Then you'll take your second magnet, you'll peel off the backing, and then instead of just sticking it to the other side, I actually magnet it to the first side because they don't like line up perfectly. Let's see, get it on there. And then I fold over and press. And that means that my magnets are now perfectly aligned to create a little magnetic bookmark. Now let's do the same with the trees. So again, I kind of have my finger here in the center, and now you can see that these align perfectly because we did flip that one tree. So even though they're kind of backwards from each other on either side, they align perfectly along the edge. So we have it folded there. We can add our piece of magnet. Our second piece of magnet. Again, place it right on top of the other one with the sticky side up, and then press together, and you'll have your bookmark. All right, the last one. This is the one I wanted to make because I wanted to show you how it sort of looks like it should align, but it doesn't. So when you fold this one, it actually aligns like this, sort of like this. So you can see here, I don't have the right edges on either side. It says make yourself a priority. However, this isn't necessarily the worst thing because as long as you get those magnets to align, it kind of works. So I have a few different magnetic bookmark sets in my shop and they align pretty well, but you know, some of them don't align perfectly and they still work just fine. So it really depends on whether or not you mind. When you see it like this, it doesn't look so great, but let me grab a book. So here is my Cricut book. These are not in my Cricut book, but let's say we wanted to save this page. You can just open it up, stick it right on there, and it sticks. It's not like you're going to see both sides. It works both ways, but Some people just really like them when they're more aligned like these. And that, my friends, is how to make magnetic bookmarks. These actually have done really well for me at craft fairs. I sell them singularly and I sell them in a set of 4. I have my own images that I use, but you can use most Cricut images for projects like this. So this is a great one if you have a small business and you're looking for another inexpensive product to add to your product line. This one's really great. These, of course, also make really good stocking stuffers, gifts for coworkers and other people who like to read. And honestly, they really aren't that difficult to make. The process, once you get going, is actually really easy. Thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial on how to make magnetic bookmarks. If you have any questions about the process, please leave those down in the comments. If you found this tutorial helpful or inspiring, of course, I would appreciate a like. Follow my channel for more Cricut content. I'll see you next time.